people are treating you the way that you allow them to treat you is one way that I've heard it put. However, another way that I've heard this stated, or within this realm of what we're talking about today, is people treat you the way that they were treated. I believe I heard the term once, hurt people hurt people. As I say in many videos, I had to listen to that line several times because I didn't fully understand it. And when I fully grasped it, I reflected on a lot of work that I have done, working in schools, working as a paraprofessional, working with families affected by state-sanctioned violence, working in community centers where there's exigent circumstances everywhere. And the idea is that, or at least the understanding is, that people are treating you or acting around you as they've been treated or acted around. Where do they learn this from? Who did they get those words from? Where did they get those actions from? And when you begin to grasp this, perhaps you can better understand what's happening around you. While we were going through some pretty hectic times here in this city, a community organizer told me that somebody was acting out in a community, and they were causing a scene, and everybody was, telling this person to stop and be quiet and, calm down, telling them to relax, which can have quite the opposite effect on somebody going through a mental health crisis. And this community organizer approached this person and said, what happened to you? What did they do to you? And this person really had to stop and think about what that meant, because they had a response, they had an answer, they had a very deep story to respond to that question. Because nothing is really in a vacuum when we talk about human behavior or anything that's erratic or even offensive to you. And it's all happening for a reason. And many times we just take it at face value and say, oh, this person's acting crazy. And we write it off. You can even say the word crazy is a little bit condemning in certain circumstances, where it just completely writes off a person's identity, their behavior, and who they are, who they're being. And however, when we think about people are treating us, the way that we allow them to treat us, but also from the get, people are treating us the way that they've been treated. And the question for you is, how do you break the cycle? Many of us have families that have trauma. I don't think I've met a family without trauma, but I have met people that have broke the chain of trauma. And many times in families, you might see somebody just pop off out of nowhere, go into argument, go into disagreement, or go into a state of step 6 or 7 in the line of a conflict, as opposed to seeing them go through step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 6 or 7. And you wonder, how did they go from that point to there? Well, there was a lot that happened before then. And there's no way you can just say that that person is out of nowhere, just pulled it out of the ether, just started acting like that. There's a story there, and there's a reason why they're acting like that. And it probably has something to do with the way that they've been treated, or what they've learned from the world, or how they're responding back to the world that they know, or also looping. And then a lot of people make trauma-informed decisions, and they may not even know it. So you may be dealing with somebody or a circumstance that isn't even conscious that they are in a trauma loop. And when we understand that people are doing this, we can not only give grace, but we can also give grace to a lot of parts of the world. And that grace doesn't necessarily mean, I want to make this clear, it doesn't mean that you carte blanche just accept it and go with it. It can mean that we draw a healthy boundary. It can mean that we just simply say we don't consent to these terms and we're going to leave. And interventions, many families, the healthy boundary is, when you are using this substance, I will not be around. I love you. I want to be around you. I want to be a part of your life. but I can't have you being a part of my life when you're on this substance. And it's not telling somebody how to be, it's just stating where you will draw the line in your life if they're being a way that has been harmful to your life. And so we draw healthy boundaries to navigate not being treated by people the way that they've been treated in the past, and thusly breaking the chain. Many times people will look at happenings of community violence or survivalism as just barbaric acts in a vacuum and say, oh my goodness, these people are out of control. And what many people don't understand is, and we talked about this in the last video, is living in crisis. Not crisis just being a moment, but it being a feature, not a flaw. It being part of the environment, not just simply part of the day. And when you're engaging with somebody, and me as a paraprofessional all the time, what I have to do is assess, is this person experiencing exigent circumstances, or are they living in exigent circumstances? And there's no judgment on that either way. It's simply to assess how to go about communication, problem solving, creating art in an after-school program, whatever the project may be with said student or person that I'm working with. And not all the time are you gonna just break the cycle in one meeting with somebody. But for yourself, you can break the cycle. And for yourself, you don't have to live in reactance or reaction or response. For yourself, you can give grace to the situation, and you can not allow it to live with you in a certain way. I've spoken with many people that work social working positions and working with people one-on-one that are living in a lot of trauma. And a lot of those people had to either vacate those jobs to self-care for themselves, or not bring their job home with them, because the energy transfer is extremely tough. You bring it with you, you absorb it, and you have to learn and understand that for many people, they are interacting with you the way that they've been interacted with, and it's been passed down. And so with that being said, I go back to the phrase, how do we break the chain? And I can't tell you how to break the chain for yourself, but I can tell you what's worked for me. One is understanding that the way people are speaking to you is probably how they've been spoken to. And you have the opportunity to show them different. Show them different, tell them different. Have them experience something different and say, you know, with one situation that I was dealing with recently, it was simply, no, I don't think that I'm going to be a part of this conversation when that word is being used. And so until you can remove that from the conversation, I won't be having a correspondence with you. But I'd love to talk to you down the road when you want to use different words. And that was it. That was it. And sometimes it can feel extremely difficult to state those terms. Well, once you get used to it and you understand the amount of time, spirit, and energy that you save by stating those terms, your life will begin to irrevocably change. And the other thing, we don't talk about this that much on this channel, is the universe will start responding. When you say, nope, that's not my price anymore, it's different now. Somebody will have to meet that level or that price or that threshold to have access to you. And on the other end of it, in working with people and understanding them, what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to support folks in a different way. You'll be able to show up differently. When we work with people experiencing houselessness, the interaction is entirely different. The conversation is entirely different, because anything could happen at any time. Like there's essentially, from my experience working in those realms, there's nothing that is predictable. There is nothing that is patterned. The only thing that you can predict is that there will be some sense of chaos, some sense of state-sanctioned pop-up to where everybody will get relocated at some point or physically accosted. And when you understand those terms, you can show up differently and what I believe in a more helpful way. And you can do that for yourself as well. So I think we can, take on the phrase, people treat you the way you allow to treat them, but I think we can go deeper to the source of the actions. And we can say, people treat you the way that they've been treated in the past, and how can we break the chain of that trauma-informed series of communication. And the last thing I'll say is, when working in classrooms, one thing that I'll really get after is I'll say, person A is walking down the sidewalk and person B is on the other side of the street. Person B says to person A on the other side of the street, "Hey, you butthead." And then you're out there and you just see person B say this to person A. Who do you look at? What do you think is going on? And usually, and can be from first grade up until high school, what I've almost unanimously always heard is the students say, "Oh, I'm looking at person B. I'm wondering what's going on with them. What's happening?" And the idea is that it's not about person A. They didn't say anything. Maybe they've done something, we don't know. But the source of the ire, the spite, the shouting, what have you, is coming from person B. And it comes back to that question of, what happened to this person? What did they do to you? That informs you to act this way. And once we get to that, then we can break the chain and communicate in a way and correspond in a way that is going to build, grow, and expand.